mention.
Yeah, I'm listening. So what do I need to type for this rotate?
So you have not tell us anything you are doing now. You don't know anything you're doing.
I said rotate. This assignment. I'm talking about the assignment now. I'm not talking about the new.
Okay,
We
okay,
are
okay,
not
okay,
done. No.
okay,
I'm talking about this rotate. I
okay,
said this
okay,
box.
okay,
So nothing is there as you can.
okay, okay, okay.
So okay,
Now I
rotate.
thought you were talking about the new one.
Uh, if not, if not having, there's nothing like rotate button here now. Okay, rotate BTN. So document query selector. Is there anything on it to target the stuff? So where is the button? Yeah, it have ID rotates. So it have ID rotates. So what do I need to do with it? Let me collapse all this one. Huh? Rotate BTN. Then what event are you adding?
You add an event to is when you doing what hello, hello sir. Is there a way you're doing something else that is using the network? It's not following what you're saying.
It's the same
Like it's
network.
slow.
It's the same network I'm using. So I've already changed it already. So after the click, what next?
Okay. System connection. Your function.
Yeah. So what do I need to do? What is this one? Nonsense. I need to do what? You want to rotate the bulb. Anytime you click on it, it will only rotate it by 90 degrees. So how do we rotate? How do you even like? Because the first thing you need to know is what you want to do. It's not about this one is not even JavaScript stuff. Oh. What do you want to actually do here? That's the first thing you need to digest first. But if you don't understand what you want to do, there is no way you solve the problem. You need to understand what you want to do first. And what do you want to do? You want to rotate. So what can you use? That's the next thing. Oh. You want to rotate. You already know what you want to do. So the next thing is that okay, what can I use to make this thing to happen? So what can we use to make that bulb to rotate? So what can you do to make the bulb to rotate? What can you do to rotate the bulb? Eh? Which value? Which value? What can you do to rotate element in CSS? Eh?
Flex. Column reverse for CSS.
Column reverse. I don't
No, you talk
understand.
about CSS. So we have column reverse.
Yes, now what can you use like from CSS now? What can you use to rotate a box? What can you use to rotate a box? What can you use? This thing is simple now. We've talked about this thing before. Eh? What the JavaScript stuff you want to do is related to CSS. You want to modify a property. I'm not asking which property can you use to rotate the box. Whatever you want to do here is related to CSS. You know, anytime you want to change the shape of element, that's CSS. So whatever you want to do here now is related to CSS. I'm not asking that what can you use to rotate any element. We've talked about this thing before. What can you use? Which property are you going to use to rotate a box? You know, everything in CSS is just box. So whether it is box or whether it is text or whatever stuff, everything is box to CSS. So what can you use to rotate a box? Well, In order not to waste
This
time,
time.
because time is going already, so don't let me waste
I
time. Uh, when you want to rotate a box, we've talked about transform property, and that's why I always tell you to go over the no. I think where is this itself? Where is the CSS class? As you can see, these are all the CSS class. I'm going to send the stuff to the group. You can go over the stuff again. Where is the file? So where is this thing? Should be somewhere there, like that, or somewhere in any of these file. We've talked about this thing before, but I will go over it again. Where is it? So where is the bulb? Let me go to where we have the bulb. Where is the bulb? Bulb. It should be up here. Yeah, so this one. I told you that in CSS we have a property known as transform here. And this transform, you can use it to do different stuff. One of the things we have with this is translate. This translate means you want to move. Translate is just move. But this translate, you can use it to move on X and you can use it to move on Y. So how are you moving it on X and how are you moving it on Y? So this translate. Here now, if I use 50 pixels, what you are saying is this element from its original position, you are moving it to the right by 50. The first value is the X. When you use a positive value, it's going towards your right. And when you use a negative value, it's going towards the left. So if I save it now, as you can see, the image will be moved by 50 pixels. But you see, it's only doing it on X because I did not mention Y. If you give it one value, it only work for X. But if you want to move on Y too, you can specify the second value. So here now, if I use 100 or 200 pixels, what you are saying is for the original image, for the original position here, you want to shift it down by 200 pixels and you want to move it to the right by 50 pixels. So if I save it now, as you can see, the image is not down. That's kind of a go down like that. So, and because this thing is too much, let me use a smaller number because it can't go outside of its parent. So let me use a smaller number, maybe like this 20 pixels. Can you see it's coming down one? Let me use 50 or 60. So as you can see, for your original position, you are shifting it down by 60. For its original position, you are shifting it to the right by 50 here. So when you're using translate, you can control the X and the Y. But what if you only want to control one of them? Then we have this translate X. So this one will only control only the X. The movement is only going to be on the X. And what if you want to control only Y? You guess this too. It's going to be translate Y. So you are moving on the Y. So positive will come down and negative will go up. So it will be going up from its original position. This is the position of the image. So from here, it will calculate minus 50 pixels upward. So from here, if you are using positive, it will come down. And if you want it to go to the left or right, then you'll be using X instead of Y. So as you can see, it's going there. Let me use 150 if it's not too much. As you can see, it's going to this other side. And if I want it to go to the right, it's just by using this value. So if you want to shift your element or you want to move it around based on its original location there, you can use this transform, and one of the value there is this translate, and you can use translate X, you can use translate Y, or you can use translate. You can do X and Y at the same time, but when you're using translate X, you can only do X, and when you're using translate Y, you can only do Y. This is one of them. But apart from this, another one that you can use is this rotate here, which you can use to rotate the element. So for example, here now, I want this thing to be rotated by this 45 degree. You'd have to put degree there before it works. So if I do it now, can you see? It will rotate the image by what? 45 degree. If it is 90, just specify any degree you want. For example, 120 degree like this. So this image is going to rotate it by 120. If I want, I can use 10 degree. You see that it will rotate. Please, it's not every time that I'm going to teach everything in the classroom. Some stuff that I will ask you to do is something you can go to Google and just look out for it. You can't just learn from the class alone. There is no way you move fast if you are depending on what is inside the class alone. Even if it's something that I've not taken before, once I give you assignment, the next thing you need to do is something that you don't know before. What you do is to put it to Google. And once you put it to Google, you are going to see different ways of doing this thing. And from there, you even learn some stuff that I've not really talked about in the class. And that's how to learn. Because not everything that I'm going to mention in class. So rotate here, you can use it to rotate. And this is what you need to use. This is a property here that we need to use to do this thing. But we don't want to be doing it by anything like this from CSS. We want to be doing it as we are clicking on this button. And I mentioned it yesterday that we want to be doing it by 90, but we can start with a small number there. So which means here now, we need to call that element. And what is the element? Which is this bob, which is this image. So this bob, on it, we need to call the style. I've talked about this one, to work on the style from the CSS, from the JavaScript there. So the style, which property do we want to use? We want to use this transform. And what do you want to set it to? We want to set it to rotate. And this thing will always be rotated by what? By 90 degree. But here now, if you just put 90 degree like this one will not work the way you're expecting it to work. It will work, oh, but it will not work the way we're expecting it to work. Because the way I want it to work is that if you click on rotate, it will go here. If you click again, it will change. But this one, what you are saying is that it will always maintain whatever that is here. So that is here like this. So if I click on it, it will work for the first time. But now if you click on it again, you know we say it will always be 90 degree. But we want it to be increasing the value by 90. So start with 90. The next time you know it will be 180. The next time it will be 270. The next time it will be 360, and it will keep going like that. And this thing, even if you give it a number that is more than 360, it will convert it to whatever it needs to do there, because you know this thing is in 360. Let me give it a 400 like this. As you can see, it goes back because the rotation, this thing is in 360. So if you give it more than 360, it will just go back to original this thing. So you need to do some condition here, because this thing is not just simple work. And you need to put all the things that we've learned together. We've talked about this one before, how to work with the element style. And you know from JavaScript, you can manipulate the element style. To do it from CSS, this is what you have to do in CSS. But now we don't want to be doing this thing in CSS because this thing is dynamic. Because when you click on the button, it will always change. And since it will always change, you can't just do it from CSS because CSS is not dynamic. So in order for this thing to work, you need to use JavaScript, because in JavaScript you can manipulate this thing anyhow you want. And what do we need to do here? Because this thing is not complete here, so we want to be changing this value anytime you click on rotate. And what can we do? You know, another thing you can use here is that anytime you need to keep tracking of the value, the previous value of your rotate here. You need to keep of the previous value. And how do you keep the previous value? So here we can declare a variable outside here. For example, here I can declare a variable, and I'm going to call the variable as this rotate here, and by default it's going to be 0. So this value now, anytime you click on rotate, it will update it, and this value we just use it inside this box. Or if you want, you can call it anything. We can call it rotate number, so that you don't, so rotate number like this. So this rotate number by default it is 0. So, and anytime I click on this button, I need to update this value so that this thing can see it as a new value here, like that. So what do we want to do? So inside this box, what we just need to do is get whatever that is inside this rotate number before. So rotate number, come outside, which is going to be rotate number like this, then plus 90 like this. Don't forget, by default it is 0, which means it's like this. So if you add 0 plus 90, you know it will be 90. Next time, you know, if you add 90 again, it will now be 180. And the next time, you know, it is 180 to now add another 90. That's what I'm doing here. We are starting with 0. So when you click on the button, it will update this rotate number by 90. It will update it by 90. So whatever that is, can you see? Whatever that is there before, add 90 to it. So which means the first time it is 0. So it will be 0 plus 90. So that means rotate number is now 90 now. So if you click on the button again, it will be seeing this one as 90. Again, it will now add another 90 to it. No, it will now 180. Next time you click again, you know you're seeing it as 180. It will now be 180 plus, and it will keep updating the stuff. But here now, if you look at the way I declare the variable, look at what I'm using. I'm using let. I'm not using what? Const. And I explained the reason why you need to use let in place of const. because we need to update the value. And since you need to update the value, you can't use const, because here now, if I use const, it will not work, because the thing will see that I'm modifying the value here. And since you are modifying the value here, when you go there, it will complain that you are trying to modify a constant value. So all these things I don't need to be explaining them, because we've talked about everything when we're dealing with our variable. So the reason I'm using let here is because I want to update this value, which is what I'm doing on this line. And as you can see, I declare the value at the top. I did not declare it inside it at the event listener, because if you do it here, anytime you call this button, it will always reset the value back to, look at it here. If I do it from here, for example, if I just say let rotate number should be 0 like this, what you are saying is that anytime this button is clicked, the value will go back to 0 first before you now add 90 to it. But that's not what I want. What I want here is that whatever value that I update this into, later on I want to get that value, not going back to 0. Because if you look at all this one, you see that where is this in self? Let me see. Yeah, as you can see, no, I can't even use this one because this is random. It will keep generating the random number. But if you look at the last work that we did, you see that a lot of variable that we're creating is always inside the event listener. But this one is quite different. I'm not creating it inside here. And the reason I'm not creating it inside here is because anytime this event listener is fired, it will always perform all this thing again and again and again. And you know that here I'm saying this thing should be what? Should be 0. So which means the next time you call it, even though it is 90 at that time, it will return it back to 0, because it needs to recreate this variable here. And since I don't want this thing to go back to 0, that's why I put it up here. It doesn't need to be up here as long as it is outside of this function. If I want, I can just put it here. So cut it out of here and put it here. As long as it is outside of this function, it will not return it back to 0 until you reload the page. So what this thing will do is that this value here, it is starting with 0. When you click on the button for the first time, it will update it to 90, because 0 plus 90 is just 90. So when you click it on the second time, it will be seeing 90 here. It will not see it as 0 again. And that's the reason why I have to move it outside here, not that I'm putting it inside. If I put it inside, the second time you click on the button, it will return that value back to 0. But if it is outside, since you are updating it here, it will not change this thing back to 0 again. So, and what do we need to do now? Whatever value you have there, we need to put it inside this one. And how do we put it inside this one? We can now use our this template. No, I told you that something we're going to be using this in later on for something. This one here. You know, when you are dealing with string, we have double quotes, right? I hope you are listening. Hello?
Yes, sir. I'm here, sir.
Okay, okay, because I don't want to go over this thing again. No? So, yeah, this is what we need to do. We need to do this rotate. Then whatever value that this thing is having, we need to have it like this. Rotate number. Then we need to have the degree beside it. And I'll close it. But look at it now. It will be seeing it as string. But I want this thing here, this number, to be interpreted as a JavaScript code. Let me explain it from here so that you can see what I'm trying to do there. Because I've not explained this thing before, so that's why I want to put my time to explain it now, because we've not used it like that before. You know, in JavaScript, we have a way of representing our text. We can use double quotes, right? So we have text like this. It will bring out the text. Again, you have the single quotes. It will work. And we have this backtick. So text, it will still work. But this backtick, it's more than this. That's the reason why it was added in JavaScript. It was not there before around that 2015 or whatever stuff. There's nothing like backtick. So they introduced this backtick around that 2018 and 2017. That's where this thing was introduced. And why did they introduce this thing? This thing was introduced in order for you to put JavaScript code in a string. And what do I mean by JavaScript code? Look at it now. I have a variable x, which is known as 5. So now, this variable, I want to put it in a string. I want to convert it to a string. So I want to have something like this. X is what? X is just whatever the value of x. But now if I save it, can you see what is coming out? It's just x and x. But I want this second x here to be interpreted as a variable. So whatever the value of the variable, that's what I want to show here. Or let me even use another variable. So let me just use another. This value is x. Look at what is coming out. This text here, I want it to be like this. This assignment here, I want it to be like this. But the x here, I want it to give me the value that is inside the variable. Not that the stuff supposed to be like this. So anything that you put in a quote, I told you that it will interpret them as a string. It will not see it as a variable. But I want it to interpret this x for me as this variable that I have here. And how do you do it? That's where this backtick comes in. But it doesn't just work like that too. That's something you need to do. For example, if I type it here too, it will still not work like that. As you can see, it's still showing x. But how do you do it? So to convert anything that is inside backtick to a proper JavaScript code, you have to put it in this one here. So whatever that is inside this stuff in backtick is going to interpret it as a JavaScript code, not as string. It will interpret it first before converting it to string. So here now, if I put s, can you see what is that showing? What I put here is x, but by the time you come outside, it's showing 5. So what this thing is saying is that interpret this code first before you convert it to string. It will still show string, but it will interpret whatever you put inside this stuff here. And what is that stuff? It is this $sign followed by this curly brace here. So whatever you put here, it will interpret it for you. But please, it must be inside backtick. It doesn't work with double quotes, and it doesn't work with single quotes. So if you do it with single quote or double quote, it will not work. You just see everything printing out. As you can see, it will just print everything out. So if you put it inside double quote, it will not work. If you put it inside single quote, it will not work. In order for it to interpret this thing for you, you must put it inside backtick. So here I can have value is the same thing as what x like this. And if I close it, I use now see what is doing. So everything will still be string, but whatever that is inside this one here, it will interpret it first before converting it to what? String. And that's what I want to do here too. Here. So this rotate number here, I want it to interpret it for me first before converting it to string. You know what we have to type here is going to be something like this. It's going to be 90 dg like this, or it's going to be 180 dg. But where is this number coming from? It's coming from this rotate number. So I want to use this rotate number inside this string, and in order for this thing to do it, you have to use something like this. So in order for it to work, what we have to do is to convert this stuff to a backtick. So remove this one, convert it to backtick, call our rotate, then inside the bracket we want this thing to interpret it as a code for us. So what do we need to do? We just need to pass. Can you see here now? So what we are talking to JavaScript to do here is that interpret this variable first. So once you interpret it, the value, that's what you are going to use here, and every other thing will just stay the way you type them. So which means here, if I use rotate number like this, so let me create so const, or let me use let's rotate number to be what? 90, assuming the value is 80. So what do we want to do? We want to create a string, but that string is going to come from this value here. So what do we want to do? You need to do this backtick, rotate, then inside this box we want to use this value that is coming from this variable. So how do we do it? You know, you need to convert it to this template string. We call it template string. So here you pass whatever you want, so whatever the variable name, rotate number. Then when you are done, you close it. The only thing that it will interpret is what is inside this curly brace. Anything outside of it, it will not interpret them. It will take them as a string. So which means here now, it will just take this one as string, then put this in. Can you see what it's now doing? So interpret this value first. Then when you are done interpreting the value, whatever the value we get there, that's what you now use as the string. So which means now if I update this my rotate number, maybe if I change it to 120 like this, and then call this in again, can you see? It will update the stuff, because whatever that is inside the variable, it will take that value first, and when it take the value, it will now convert it to string. And that's what I'm doing on this line here. So all this one, they are string, but anything that is inside this stuff here is known as template string. So it is known as template. So let me put it here for reference sake. So we have this template as string. So and this one is useful when you need to pass a variable inside your string. So to pass a variable inside your string, you are going to have your backtick. Inside the backtick, you are going to have this one, and from there you can now have your variable inside this stuff. So you are going to have backtick like this, so backtick, and whatever template you want to have, you pass it inside this stuff here. So the variable will be here, or it can be any JavaScript code that return value. Anything that return value, you can pass it here. So for example, here now, I can just have a backtick, and inside this one, I will just have 2 plus 2 or 2 plus 3. What you are saying here, interpret 2 plus 3 first before converting into string. So here, if I close it, can you see? It's interpreting this code first. Then by the time it's done interpreting the code, the result, that's what it will now use as the string. But it will not work oh, if you are using double quote, it will never work because there is nothing like that with double quote. So if you do 2 plus 3 with double, as you can see sef, the color are different, so it will not work. If you do it with double quote, it will just type everything you put inside it back to you. The same thing too with single quote. If you use it, it will not work. It doesn't work with single quote, and it doesn't work with double quote. It only work with back tick. So when you want this thing to interpret the code for you first before converting it to string, then you need to use backtick, and wherever you want it to my name, then here I want it to interpret a code for me first before converting it to string. So I want to have 2 plus 3 or 3 plus 3, then multiply by 8 or whatever stuff you want to put there. So it will interpret this one first, then the result is what is now used at that place. So we need to close it, and as you can you see what is that coming out? So it's interpreting everything here, and it will, whatever the result you get here, that's what you now use as a string. Hope is clear. Hope this thing is
Yes,
clear.
yes,
Because we are going to be
sir.
using this thing a lot.
Hello,
Yes.
sir. Is it when you use that backtick, so you are not the one that now put the dollar sign and the color code?
Of course now.
Why?
Now you go. You the one that
Okay,
will type it now. It will type
okay.
backtick. That's why I'm saying backtick can be used for normal string. It doesn't need to be that one. You can see you can put anything there. It will still work when you put normal string. But if you want it to interpret something for you inside that string first, then you have to use this symbol together. And whatever you put inside this stuff, that's what it's going to do. As you can see, it's bringing an error because I did not put anything there. But if I put something there, it will interpret that value first before I putting it. So if I do 2 plus 2, it will firstly do the normal JavaScript code, then it will now convert the result to this thing. So that's how it works.
But sir, when you were explaining this science stuff, you said okay. Well, no problem, sir.
You are the
But
one
you
that
said
is doing your math correctly. It have to
hello,
multiply
sir.
first before adding. Odd mass. Yes, what are you saying? You are doing
Yeah, I
3
said
difference.
when you were explaining about this sign, you said you can only use one in a code. We cannot use like a string and backtick. We cannot be mixing them together like that.
Why will you mix them together?
But yeah, okay. Well, is this one a different stuff or it will not affect the job?
I don't understand your question because I'm not mixing anything together now. So I
No,
still
no,
don't get
like
the question.
you are using this backtick on the this stuff you are doing now. Now.
Yes. So what's the
Ehen.
question?
But you know when you were explaining about this science stuff, you said we can only use one in a code that we cannot mix them up like using string, backtick, and all single string. Do you understand?
I still don't get because I did not mix them together. So that's what I'm trying to get. When you say we cannot mix them, but I did not mix. Because when I was reading the stuff,
Okay,
it's still
okay.
backtick that I'm using. I did not mix them. When I was using single, I follow single. When I was using double, I follow double. So
Of
I don't
course.
get that sense, I don't get the question.
Okay, no problem. So just
This is it here. I'm using, since I started with backtick, you have to end with backtick. You
uh,
can't just mix. Look at it, it's starting with backtick and it's ending with backtick. The same thing too in the code. If you look at it here, it starts with backtick and it's ending with backtick. You can't mix them, and I'm not mixing them together. So
okay.
that's why I say I don't get the question. Look at it here too. I did not mix backtick, backtick. I did not mix it with single, or they are not the same thing. Maybe your eyes is seeing Let me expand it. Look at this is single. Single is facing up. The single quote is facing up, but backtick is facing back. As you can see, they are not the same thing.
Now, where did you use to get that symbol on the keyboard?
It's just your it depends on the keyboard you are using. But if you are using normal US keyboard, is the second letter after the L or the second key.
It is colon me I have here. Oh.
That's what I'm saying. That it depends on your keyboard. So if you are using US keyboard, that's where it's going to be. But if you are using UK, it will be different. So
Okay.
as I mentioned, that it depends on the key that you are using, the keyboard. So if you are using US keyboard, it always at that place. So after the L, that's where you are going to see it. But if you are using another type of keyboard, you know there is Arabic, there is UK, and there's some more German and so forth like that. So you have to follow the type of the key. No, it
Okay.
depends on you. Are going to see. You can see my own now. So as you can see, it will tell you what is going on there. And again too, you can actually change your system keyboard setting if you don't want to use the one that follows it. So just search for the keyboard there. As you can see, once you search for the keyboard, you are going to configure whatever you need to do with your keyboard. You pick the language and whatever stuff. But my own, when I was doing the setup for the system, I picked the US. Since I pick the US, whatever setting that is going to come in, we follow the US keyboard, whatever stuff like that. This is not what I want. So you can change your language setting. So once you change the language setting, it will update the keyboard too. So it's not about what is on the keyboard, but the setting you are using for your system. So I'm using US, which is going to be language, but you can actually set different language if you want. Language setting, like this, and you can change your keyboard setting. As you can see, the typing. So related setting, you have the typing. So once you go under the typing, you pick the keyboard, whatever, so the language region and a lot of other things that you can pick there like that. So as you can see, my keyboard is set to English, as you can see. So it is US for the keyboard too. It's the same thing that I'm using. So based on the setting you have here, that's what is going to follow. So for US, it's always here. But if it is UK, even the art too, if you change it to you see that this thing will start doing nonsense. There's another laptop at home. That one have the two setting already. So if I go to the UK one, anytime I press this art, it doesn't work until I change it back to even though it's showing arts here, but once you change it to UK, this one is now code. So the two you have to it's working for code. So each country have their own this thing. But if you are using UK, then it will work correctly for you. You just need to switch to UK. Once you switch to UK, no. Once you switch to US, and you start enjoying this thing, or you start having the same. That's why I not change my keyboard to UK, whatever stuff. So you just need to look for where it is. Look for the type of the keyboard that you or the language you are using for your keyboard.
Yeah, I'm using US, so I just go and check it. I'm using
Uh-huh.
US.
So once you press the third or the second one after the L, it should kind of bring it out for you. So if you type it without using the shift key, it will give you one. But if you hold shift and you press it, it will give you double quotes. So that's what is there.
Yes, sir.
So in order for this thing to work, you need to use backtick. So now if I click on the stuff, can you see what happened? So the value is now what? 90. So if you click on it next time, you know it is 90 before, it will add 90 to what is there before. It will now be 180. So it is 180 now. So when you click on rotate again, you know the value is 180. It will now add another 90 to it. And once you add 90, it will perform all this action, put everything together, and once you click on it, as you can see, it will rotate. Click on it again, it will go up, and as you can see, it will keep scrolling like this. But the value is changing. The value is more than 360. But anytime you're dealing with the rotate, if you give it a number that is greater than this, it will convert it to it for you. So if you give it around that 500, it will divide it by 360. Whatever value you get, that's what it will now use there. So the thing is really smart. Even though the value we are giving it right now is more than what is supposed to be there. So if I inspect it, you see that the rotate value, can you see 1,005 watts? 1,536. So what is going to do here, the final value is going to be that thing divided by 360. So it has to make sure the value is between 0 and 360. Even though the value you pass here is more than that, it knows how to convert the stuff. if I go to the calculator here now, you see what it's doing, the value is using here. So what do we have then? We have this 1 5. So we have 1 5 3 0. Then it will divide it by 360 because that's the maximum value. So the maximum value you can get is 360. And as you can see here, this is what we are getting there, and this value is what is going to, it will convert it to a proper value, and from there it will give us the degree, and you'll be able to see the stuff there like that. So that's what it's doing. It's not this 1000 whatever stuff, it can't go more than 360, but we have something referred to as a ton. So 1 ton is 360. So when it get to that 1 ton, so when the value is now more than 1 ton, it will divide it, then the value is getting will determine what is going on here. And if you expand it here, you see that it is here, because you can never go more than 360. As you can see, you can't go more than 360. The maximum is 360, the minimum is 0. So it just so it's starting from 0, you go all the way back to 0. But if you now have a value that is more than that, it will never go than the stuff. So you can rotate the stuff and move it around to anywhere you, as you can see, here is 360, which is 1 ton like that. So which is the same thing as 0. Whether you use 360 or use 0, it's still the same position. But circle, where you start from, that's where you are going to go back to when you are done. So that's what is happening here. But in order for us to be able to do it from JavaScript, this is what we did. We get the value that is there. We did not get the original value that is there. What we did is that we start with a starting point number. And what is our starting point number? The starting point number is 0. And that's the reason why you see that is here. If I want it to move to another place, I can change my starting point to maybe 1 or 90 like this, or whatever I want, maybe like 45. So which means when we click on rotate, it will now be 45 plus 90, because it's not mimicking the original position there. The reason I use 0 is because by default this is 0, it's facing up, that's 0. So it's at the original position, that's 0. But you can now change the value. Now if I click on rotate, as you can see that it did not really go like this, it go like this, because we are adding 45 to 90 instead of adding 0 to 90. No, from here it's here. So if it is 90, it will face here. But now it's now facing downward here, because it is 45 plus 90. So by default, we set the value to 0, so that when you click on it, it will now move like this. No, it is 90 now. Can you see? The value is 90. So if you click on it next, the value will change to 180, because it is 90 before. 90 plus 90, 180. So the next time you click on it, it will be 180 plus 90, which is now 270. Again, when you click on it, it is now 360. If you click again, it will add another 90, 450. But there's no way we are going to add 450 in a circle. It is always 0 to 360. So it needs to make sure that this value is kind of in sync with what is going on here. And what is going on there, what we can just do is to just add this 450, then divided by, no, it's supposed to, divided by this 360, like that. And it's not giving what I want. What's wrong with this, my stuff? Yeah, this is, supposed to be divided by this. What is that value? 450. Yeah. So here, I'm still not getting. Is not what's wrong with this thing? But I don't want to. Don't let me do this thing, because we need to convert it to a degree. Don't let me go into all this mathematics stuff, because we need to be converted to a degree and whatever stuff. I don't want to do all this thing here. So, but what is going on there is that whatever that is going on is going to, let me use, this is what I need to do. Did I do modulus? I don't want to do modulus. Man, scatter the brain. So in JavaScript, you can actually do modulus. So what is modulus in JavaScript? I've explained this, What is this operator? When you have 5 module 6 like this. So what is this operator doing? I've explained it before. It's working with this thing. It's working with this one, which I've explained before. Which I tell you that this one will return the remainder of the division.
Yes.
So you can use it to get whatever that is left, and you work on this thing. Or if you don't want the number to be increasing like that, if you want to do it yourself, we can undo it from here. So what we can do is that if the rotate number, where come aside, rotate number, if it is greater than 360, so if it is greater than 360, what we just want to do is to return it back to 0. So which means when you get here, or even to is greater or equals to 360 itself, go back to 0, because 360 and 0 are the same thing for circle. So we want to return it back to 0. So save. So which means our number now will never go past the value that we want from this thing. So if I spell this in again, by default, the as you can see, by default is going to be whatever value that's supposed to be there, which is going to be 0. But now if I click on this, as you can see, it is 90. Click again, click, so it will 270. The next time now it will be 360. But since 360 is the same thing as 0, so clicking on it, as you can see, it go back to 0. Because to circle, 360 is the same thing, because you start from 0, and that same place is when you go back to. So 360 is this the same thing as 0. And as you can see now, it's going back to this 0. And that's what I did here. So if the value is greater or equals to 360, return it back to 0, because this starting position is 0. So instead of the thing to be going up, 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 once you click on this thing, it will always reset back to 0 anytime it goes up. So once you go back up, it will reset to 0. And once you go to another one, then it will give you the value it needs to give you. But what if you want to do in opposite direction? What do we need to do? I want these things to be in opposite direction. That is going to be the assignment now. I want this thing to be, no, here now, the rotation is happening forward, but I want it to be in opposite direction. So that's what we are going
Then
to
you add
do.
X.
Yes, what do you say?
I say you add X to it.
Yes, I will add what?
X.
X to where? So rotate X. Okay, let me add it. So let me now rotate.
No, the
Let me.
transform, the style transform.
Eh?
The style transform, yeah. The style from the CSS.
What are you? We are changing something from JavaScript, not CSS. You can't change from CSS. I'm not changing anything from CSS. I've commented it out. Oh. It's not because of what we are doing here that is making it to work. Oh. You can see that I've commented it out. This thing has been commented out already. So you are not doing anything from CSS. You are doing it from JavaScript. So whatever you want to do is still here. It's still on this line. The thing that will make it to go back to be doing like this instead of like this is here. It's on this line. So you are not doing anything from CSS, because the changes, you are doing the changes here. So that's why I said I call it assignment. You need to go and do research on it. How to make your rotate to go in the clockwise and the anti-clockwise direction. No, it's going in the clockwise. So you need to make sure that it's going in the anti-clockwise, like this instead of this. So before I call it a day, I want to explain
I hope
what
your
I
network
want.
is not clear.
I want to explain this thing, what is going on here. I have like 10 minutes left. So I want to explain what we want to do here. This is going to be next class, but I just want to explain what is going to happen here. And I'm thinking maybe I should move it into its own file so that I don't jam pack it with what is going on with this one. So I think let me do that. Let me call it C4 now. So let me create another one, C4. So I'm going to have C4 like this, so that we have enough. So this is going to be index.html. We're going to have the style.css, and at the same time I'm going to have the script.js like this. So let me just copy everything that I have here. So from this C3, let me copy everything and just modify. So let me close this one. I will send this C3 back again so that you have the updated code. So paste this one, then remove all this one, saved. Then from there, the CSS too, let me copy the CSS and leave. So where's the C3 CSS? Copy and remove what I don't need. So I don't need this main. I'm using section. So I don't need this image. I'm not using any image. So what am I doing? The main, I don't need it like that. Actions, I don't need it. Bobs, I don't need it in this C4. Actions, I don't need it. Like this, I don't need them. So section, I need section. So let me remove all this one. Since it's the only one we have. All right. So section, remove it. Okay, saved. Then go back to this C3, remove all this one too. I don't want to see this one too inside C3. So we just know that this is the only thing that is inside C3 and not adding what is not supposed to be there. So C3 CSS remove. So for the scripts, C3 scripts, let me copy what I paste or what I have there for the application. Yeah, for this one, I need to move it out. So I want to put them together, but better we separate them instead of putting them together. So paste this one here and go back into C3, close this C3. So save this C4, close the C3, stop the server. And why is this thing still loading? What's wrong with VS Code? Still loading. Okay, it's done. Stop the server. Then stop the server. Go to C4, run it. We should only have that one. Yeah. So C4, yes. So we have this C4. And what do I want to do here? What is this application all about?
Sir. Hello, sir.
Yes.
Please, before you start this one, you gave us two assignments. You get so don't forget the first one before you gave us the one you gave us yesterday. That one where you said
I can't go over that one now. There is no time. So I will do that one in the next class before working on this.
okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Because there are solutions, and again, it's like something that will take time. So it does depend on the time it takes us to finish the stuff. So you can see this one is already 40 something minutes. And I don't want this thing to enter 1 hour because the size will be too much.
Okay.
All right, so what do we want to do with this stuff? I'm not even going to do all this one. I'm going to be explaining some stuff later on. So that's why I want to separate itself. Because the way I want us to handle this one is to move forward. We don't want to be doing all those basic stuff that I've been talking about. We need to move forward a little bit. And this is what we're going to use now to work with array. So we need to work with array, yes. And I'm going to duplicate this button multiple times. I'm going to duplicate this button multiple times. But right now, let me style it correctly because where is it? So where are the btn? So I want this thing to go to multiple line. So flex wrap, this is a property that I've not used before, but I've explained it. It's going to be wrap. As you can see, all of them, they are just on one line. But I don't want all of them to be on one line. I want it to span to next line. But how do I make it to be to next line? So I can give this one a weight. So each box should have a weight of, let's just say, 75 pixels. So each box are going to have 75 pixels. So let me remove this one like this. Can you see what is that going on here? So by default, all your elements or all your flex items, you can see they're always going to be on one line, no matter the number of items you have there. But I don't want it to be like this. I want it to move the remaining one to next line. The one that cannot occupy that line, just take them to next line. And as you're going to work, you can use something known as flex wrap. And what is wrap? Wrap means that once you are arranging all these items and you get to the end and you see that you cannot accommodate everything, the one that you cannot accommodate on that line, it will take them to next line. I'm not doing column, it is still row, but because it cannot accommodate everything on one line, because look at it now, look at the size of the box. This is not what I want. I want the size to be 75 pixels, but because we said everything should be row, it's always going to put them on one line. But that's not what I want. I want it to move the remaining one that cannot accommodate that line to next line. So if I save it now, and you see that as you can see, each box will be 75. but the remaining space that is left there cannot accommodate this one. That's the reason why it move it to next line. So again too, this one, this space is too small for it to accommodate this 75, so it move it to next line. But if I'm not using this one, it will make sure that everything is on one line, and what it's going to do, it will now make everything to be smaller, which is not what I want, because this button here now, we want to be able to click on them. This color will be changed later on, because the stuff here is that we want to create random colors. By now you know how to generate random stuff now. So what we now want to use that random that we talked about yesterday to generate random color for all these buttons. So the computer will now pick a color out of them, it will show it here. There is now less for you to click on the one that matches what is here. So if you click on the one that is correct, the message will come outside here that, oh, you get the color correctly. But if you click on the wrong color, then it will give error here. And that's why you see that I've already prepared all the styles that we need. So there is color for error and there is color for success. So right now, I just put it there as success. As you can see, the message will be different later on when we are working on this in our next class. So if the error class is error, you see that the color will be different. So the thing will be changing in the next class based on whether you pick the correct color here or you pick the wrong color. So this color, this button here, their color will change based on what the computer fixed there. So we generate how many buttons there? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So this is 9, 10, 11. It should be more than this. I want it to be what can I even do, Seth? I want them to be let me use this one. Let me add 1 so that it is 12. So what it's going to do here is that we are going to generate 12 random colors, and it will fix color for each one of them. So you are going to be seeing the color, you see the background as the color. So it's not less for you to pick the one that matches the computer is picking here. So for example, you are going to have 25, you know now, this is the amount of red, this is the amount of green, and this is the amount of blue. So the computer will generate random color, 12 random color. And out of that 12 random color, it will pick one and it will put it here. So it's not left for you to compare the one that matches this. So you check, okay, these are the colors. You just, use your head to just look at which one that is matching, that can match that color code. So the one that matches the color code, once you click on it, it will check whether it matches or not. If it match, the color will be green and it will say congratulations, you get it. But if it's not matching, then it will say error. The color that you pick is not the same thing as what the stuff is here. So you are going to see this thing better once we start with the work. But the major thing here is that we have this box, which is the button, and this button later on, the color that is going to be there, that means the background color, the computer is going to generate it we are the one that will generate the color, but we don't know the color. We are going to be using random this thing to generate a number between 0 and 256. So it will now use that to construct the color. So it's going to use that to construct the color code for red, the one for green, and the one for blue. But it will do it 12 times, because for each button, each one of them has to have a background. And this is what I'm saying here. Let me quickly do it, but I will explain better in the next class here. But let me quickly do the stuff right now. I'm not going to be selecting the button one by one like this. I will select all of them at once. So it's going to become BTNs, but I will explain this thing better in the next class so that you actually see. So I will use query selector here too, all. So this is going to be buttons like this. And what do I want to do here? So I will explain all this in the next class. As I say, we are moving forward now. We are not doing that basic stuff again. So BTNs then for each. What is for each? I will explain this in the next class. So for each BTN, add event listener like this. And what did I want to do? Click. And you are going to do whatever we need to do. But I'm not doing anything with this one for now. What I want to do here is that so I want to generate the colors here. I want to generate 12 colors. So how do we generate 12 colors? So generate colors. Hey, this thing is getting complicated though. I don't want to go into this thing. Better explain it in the next class one by one. Hey, that's what I'm saying. So as you can see here now. So this is, don't give me nonsense. I've explained this thing before, but I say I'm not using it now, but I will still go over it again. I know. I'll still go over it again. But here now, what I just want to do is colors, then dot push. So what did I want to push? Here. So here I have I. So let me push. Copy this one. Where is this thing? So now, what I talked about now is what I want to use. Oh. See that I'm using the backtick now. Math.random. But now this is not what I want. So C or R, so this is RGB, so that's red. Is going to be this math.random.255. So for the green, it's going to be this because I'm generating some random number, and for this, it's going to be this one like this. But I want to round everything down, so this is going to be floor. No, don't let me do the floor right now. Let me just, yeah, it's doing it already. So from here, what do we want to do? RGBA. So I have red, green, and blue. See that I've started using all these things that we talked about today. But I will come over all these in. Then from here, btn the style, then dot background is going to be colors at high. Hey, can you see? See the screen now. So here too, the computer is going to pick one from this. So set guess. So set computer guess like this. So which is going to be this. Go up. Set computer guess. Come down. You can see now we started doing advanced stuff, but I will go over all these things in the next class. So first, set this one. So this is going to be constraint index. Should just be maths because you need a lot of random stuff here. Then maths dot floor like this. So maths dot rand multiply by the length of the colors. So colors dot length. So whatever the length that is here, that's what we are going to use. And what do you want to do? So this side here, I want to update it. So I want to update it. And what did I use? Okay, it is H3. So I need to select it at the top here. So let me select it first. Yes, box, document, then query selector. We are selecting only one. This is going to be H3 like this. So what do you want to do? So guess box dot inner HTML should just be, I'm using backtick again, RGB. So this is going to be color Can you see now? So out of this color that is generated here, is picking one. So it's now less for you to pick the one that matches this code. So once you click on it, it will now check whether this one you click is the same thing as the color code that is here. But what this thing that I just did now, that is something that we've not talked about. Everything that is here, except this for each, that I have not talked about. So, and I will be talking about it first before going into the other. But other things that are here, we've talked about them before. But let me adjust this CSS because that thing is not looking nice. This one is supposed to be.
I want to ask a question about the CSS portion before you go in. You use this flex wrap stuff, right? So you know why don't you use this thing? Grid.
Yes, now you can use that one. Yeah, you can actually use that one too. Because that's what you want. Even that one is even better because that one now is more predictive. You know that it's going to add this two number per line. So if you want to do it like that, it will work too. So instead of me using this, what I can do is to just use grid jeje, and this one I can just say that display grid dg, then the grid. That's why I said once that's why you need to understand the concept. Once you understand concept, you can do things in different way, you still have the same result. 1 2 3, so 3 1 fr, and if I save it, you see we're having the same thing. And it's even look at this one sef, it's spacing it already, so
Okay.
you still have the same thing. It all depend on what you want to use.
Okay. But that flex wrap and this grid work as work for same thing, or they work same function.
Grid, you know the number of column, you know the number of column per row, so you use grid. As you can see, I give it here 3 per row. If you want, you can give it 4 4. You see that it will now be 4 4 instead of 3 3. So it all depend on whatever you say here, that's what it's going to use. And I think this 4 4 is okay. So now look at it, this thing will be changing. If I reload the page, you see that this number will change because it's guessing, it's generating 12 colors. Out of these 12 colors, it pick one. So that one that it pick here, you need to guess the one that matches the one that the computer pick. So once you click on the button, it will cross check the color code of this one. So if it matches what you have there, then it is okay. If it's not matched, then it will tell you that that is not the code, which is something that we're going to. So all these things that I just type here, I will go over them in the next class here. So let me just comment them out from reference sake. And then as you can see, everything go back. So no JavaScript again. This is just normal HTML and CSS. But once JavaScript comes in, you see that the functionality will enter and everything will, and it will always do this thing every time. The color will always change because it's random stuff. We're using the random this, it will always generate different color code. And as it's generating the different color code, you always have the stuff here. So that's going to be all for today. Stop.